Meal plans at Disneyland Paris. Should you add them to your booking? Should you buy a meal plan for Disneyland Paris? The answer is, well, it depends. In this video, I'm going to definitely share with you lots of top pros and top cons as to why to buy a meal plan or why not to buy a meal plan. What do we do when we go to Disneyland Paris? We've got several years of experience of going to Disneyland Paris, so do we ever buy a meal plan? I'm going to share all of that with you to make you make a better informed choice as to whether you need to have a meal plan or not. I'm going to explain in this video the pricing of the meal plans, how the meal plans actually work, all the different structures and different levels of meal plans that you can actually buy, because it's quite confusing, guys. If it's your first time to Disneyland Paris, you probably will be confused as to whether should you buy one or should you not. What should you do when it comes to meal plans? This video is definitely for you. And also anyone who's been to Disneyland Paris, you might have been a few times and actually just straight away gone with a meal plan and booked it in with your booking for Disneyland Paris, you might be making a mistake. Who knows? Watch this video to find out. So I'm going to delve into all of those things on this video, so let's get straight to it. So hi everyone, welcome back to Disney Brownies, or if you're new to our channel, thanks for clicking on this video today and watching us, maybe for the first time. So Disney Brownies is me and my daughter Emily. She's my teenage daughter and she does feature in a lot of the Disney Brownie videos, but quite a lot of the informative, sit down, chatty videos, I tend to do those myself, just because in all honesty, I'm the one that's got the information in terms of what we've done over several years of going to Disneyland Paris rather than Emily. Obviously, she's there for the fun, she's there for the characters and the rides and the food, but not necessarily all the informative information behind it all. So I'm going to share obviously everything that I know to do with meal plans with you today in this video. So yeah, if you're new to Disney Brownies and you haven't already subscribed, definitely subscribe, put the notifications on so you know each time we post a new video. And definitely like this video because then it'll help us reach lots more people so I can make lots more videos just like this one, informative guides bringing all of the magic and top tips from Disneyland Paris straight to you at home. And for those of you that have been watching us for a while, you'll probably guess we're going to Disneyland Paris really soon, because I have been talking about it, have been mentioning that we will be going back. Well, we are going back, guys. We're definitely going back really soon. And in fact, there isn't actually going to be a vlog out for next week, so no more videos next week. So the actual brand new videos from Disneyland Paris on our next wonderful trip adventure to Disneyland Paris actually starts from Friday the 4th of October at 4 p.m. That's our usual upload. And then what I'll be doing is putting videos out twice a week rather than once a week. So we'll be doing Fridays at 4 o'clock and then Sundays at 4 o'clock. So I really hope you can be with us for all of those exciting new adventures at Disneyland Paris. So remember, there isn't going to be a video next week, but I really hope this video itself makes up for it. So let's dive straight into the video and find out lots more about meal plans. Let's go. So I've come up with many questions, everyone, in terms of meal plans, the things that I would ask now if I didn't already know what the answers were. And don't get me wrong, I haven't got all the answers, guys, I definitely haven't, but I'm definitely going to try and help you with the several years of experience that I have got in terms of meal plans, whether to have them or not. And as I said, I've come up with lots of different questions. I've got a massive list here right next to me because there's too much to remember. This video would go on for probably hours if I went through absolutely every restaurant, absolutely every different scenario that you might be faced with. It would just go on for ages. So I'm going to try to pinpoint as many really sort of to the point questions so that I can give you a better answer to the point as well. And I think one of the most things that you will probably feel at home if you've never been to Disneyland Paris before, or if you've been and you've just automatically gone with a meal plan, not really knowing if it's worth it, whether you need one, you might just think you have to have one. And you don't. And the most common thing that I think that most people probably think is having a meal plan helps you budget and definitely helps you save money. That's definitely wrong. Now, it can help you definitely budget and it can definitely help you plan ahead, but will it save you money? In this video, I'm definitely going to delve into the costs of meal plans and whether they do save you money or whether they don't. So keep watching right the way through to the end of this video because there's lots and lots of information all the way through it. So if you miss a section, you might miss something vital for you. So definitely watch all the video and definitely like it if you like the content today. My biggest top tip to do with meal plans, and first of all, working out whether for you and your family, whether it's going to be worth it. Because let's face it, with meal plans, just like everything else that you face with in Disneyland Paris, it's whether it's right for you and your family. It's not necessarily going to be for everybody. So you might have a couple going to Disneyland Paris, you might have a small family, you might have a large family, and all of those things do make a massive difference as to whether you need to go for a meal plan or you don't. My biggest advice to anyone thinking about a meal plan, and I'm giving this top tip right at the start of the video, everybody, is to first of all work out what are the restaurants that you actually want to visit at Disneyland Paris. I do this every single time, so I might already know the answer whether I'm going to get a meal plan or not, but each time I do this every single time I'm about to go for a trip. Well, when I'm planning a trip. This is before the booking stage, because when you do book Disneyland Paris, you get the option to add the meal plan on. And an important thing to note is you can't always then add your meal plan on until a bit later on in terms of when you pay in your final balance. As far as I'm aware, don't quote me on it, I'm not 100%, but as far as I'm aware, I think you can add it on at the beginning and then you can add it on later on, but not necessarily in the middle of it all. But in either event, you will always be able to add on a meal plan one way or another. So you've got everything ready to book your Disneyland Paris trip, and now you're deciding about your meal plan. As I say, this is the biggest piece of advice that I can definitely give after a lot of years of practice and knowing Disneyland Paris, knowing the restaurants. You know, I've been to quite a lot of the restaurants there at Disneyland Paris, and in terms of whether to get the meal plan or not alongside it. It does hold a key in terms of where you actually want to eat, because then that does depend upon the price. So for instance, if you want to do lots of character dining and you want to eat out every single evening or every lunchtime, that's going to have a bearing over the price and whether to get a meal plan or not, in comparison to maybe cheaper buffet restaurants that, yes, you may get sort of Disney theming and things like that, but it's not necessarily going to be the same experience as character dining. Then you've kind of got in the middle, you've got the table service restaurants, which, as exactly what it says, you obviously do have a menu you pick from, and you pick from the menu and then they bring everything to your table as per a normal restaurant, just not a buffet restaurant. So all of those are the different types of meal options that you would have at Disneyland Paris. So I'm going to give you an example today of, for our trip, not this coming trip, it will actually be the trip after that, because we've got lots of trips planned, everybody. We always book our Disneyland Paris trips way in advance, and we do have a lot booked already. So I'm going to give you a really good example of a few restaurants that we want to eat at in our next trip to Disneyland Paris, not this coming one, which we're going to really soon. In fact, we might already be back by the time this video goes out. I can't remember exactly how I'm going to schedule the videos. However, it's not this trip, it's the trip after that. We've got lots of trips planned. We always book Disneyland Paris way in advance, so we do have lots more ready to go, lots of trips for Disneyland Paris, so really exciting. But yes, not this trip, the trip after. I've got some restaurant ideas of the places that I want to go. So one of them is Waltz, which is more like a fine dining experience, table service, and it's actually in the park. So it's one of the more higher end restaurants. It's obviously more expensive than, say, a buffet, but it's not quite as expensive as obviously a lot of the character dining. Another restaurant I definitely want to head back to is Pim Kitchen, which is more of the cheaper end. When I say cheaper end, it's not cheap, everyone, but it is more cheaper in comparison to some of the character dining, for instance. It's probably more in the middle, really, because that is still a buffet, but it's not the cheapest buffet that there is. So that's a buffet restaurant. Waltz is a table service. So one other place that I'd like to go back to is the Manhattan restaurant, which is in the Art of Marvel New York Hotel. All of the restaurants that I've just listed are some of our favourite restaurants in Disneyland Paris for definite. So now I'm going to get to the prices of what all of those meals would actually cost if I was buying them outright with no meal plan at all. Now, our next trip, not this one, but the one after, which is the one I'm talking about, is actually for 4 nights, so 5 part days, 4 nights. So if I wanted to eat out on all of the 4 nights, I'd obviously need a 4th restaurant. So just really to put it in there as a 4th option to cover the 4 nights so that I can work out 4 restaurants, how much would it cost outright? And then 4 restaurants, how much would it cost included in a meal plan? But you will get your breakfast included in that as well. But I will explain more about that in a minute. So even though I'm not really that bothered the next time, I'm quite happy with those particular 3 restaurants. But I'm going to throw in there Cape Cod Buffet, which is in the Newport Bay Hotel. Beautiful. And I love that restaurant. It's really nice. And that's just a buffet. Again, not the most expensive buffet, but again, not the cheapest either. So that's going to be thrown in there too. So we're going to have 2 buffet restaurants and 2 table service restaurants. So not the character dining, and there's a reason for that, because that is way more expensive than the restaurants that I'm talking about. And that could make a difference for definite if you want a meal plan or not. So I'm going to get my laptop because I've done lots of research before this video, and I'm going to share with you the actual cost of it all. So I've got my laptop here with all the information, as I say, pricing up with and without a meal plan. So the main place that you can find out any information to do with the restaurants at Disneyland Paris is mainly on the Disneyland Paris website. Obviously lots of YouTube videos like our own here in Disney Brownies. We have got restaurants, quick services, table services, buffet restaurants, all different videos on our channel right now, so definitely go check them out if you haven't already. But yeah, go on to actually the Disneyland Paris website. It'll obviously give you all the information that you need really in terms of each and every one of the restaurants. So you get an idea of the theming of the restaurant, whether it's a table service, a buffet, character dining and things, because you may not know anything about the restaurant. So it's always best to get familiar with the type of restaurant that you want to eat in first, and then as I say, you can work it out from there. So as I say, going online or looking at YouTube videos, getting the Disneyland Paris app is a massive thing. You definitely need to have the Disneyland Paris app on your phone, and then you can pop on there whenever you want looking at restaurants, and that's where you do actually make all of the bookings. Now, when I talk about meal plans, that is not actually booking your restaurant. This is just thinking of where you'd like to go and deciding if you want a meal plan or not. Further on into the video, I will just discuss a little bit, touch upon in terms of booking, but that will be another video in itself in terms of the booking of the restaurants. So as I say, when you buy a meal plan, it doesn't secure your actual restaurant bookings. You have to do that completely separate. Right, let's head back to what I was saying about those different restaurants that I'd mentioned. So Walt's restaurant, currently at the moment, this is 2024 prices, is €55 per adult. Now, Emily classes as an adult because she's over the age of 11. That's something else I'm definitely going to touch upon throughout the video as well, because children factors in terms of whether the meal plans are worth it too. So as an adult, €55 for 3 of us. So to eat in Walt's, it would be €165 overall for that menu in Walt's. So whatever that menu currently is right now. As I say, it is a table service, and there is quite a few different menu choices for your starters, your mains and your dessert. So that is based upon a 3-course meal. I don't think that included a drink, if I'm honest. No, I don't think it does. I think it's just the buffet restaurants that can give you an actual soft drink included in the price. So let's take the drink out of the equation. That's for just a 3-course meal for 3 of us, €165. And then for the Manhattan restaurant, it's exactly the same, a 3-course meal that you would pick from a menu, €55 each adult, which is €165. And then next, the Pim Kitchen restaurant, which is in the Studio Park, that is €45 per adult, and again, over the age of 11. So for 3 of us, that is €135 in 2024 prices. And again, that's a buffet, so it's not that you pick set courses, you just help yourself to as much as you want to eat. But for that actual trip, I've booked a 4-night stay, so 5 part days, 4 nights. So as I say, just to make it easier to actually work out if the meal plan's worth it or not, I would always then add in the 4th night, the 4th restaurant. Whether I want to do that or not, that does depend on the price and everything. So I'm going to pop in there Cape Cod Buffet, which is the same price as the Pim Kitchen restaurant. So that's €45 for each adult, which is €135 in total. So when you add that all up, everybody, that actually comes to €600, which equates to roughly just over £500, about £506. So that's 4 nights, evening meal, because we would always, again, personal choice, you can have any of these meals for lunch or evening meal, depending on if the restaurant is open for lunch, because not every restaurant is. And again, that goes back to your actual booking of your restaurants, will help you decide if you're going to get in for lunch or evening meal. But for us personally, I'm just basing this on evening meals, because personally for us, we'd prefer to eat in the park and get snacks, have counter service during the day and have an actual evening meal later on. However, sometimes it is much better to actually book your, even though it is an evening meal, so to speak, potentially even in the afternoon. It's not lunchtime and it's not an evening meal later on, because sometimes that's the busiest time, busiest park time, and therefore sometimes by you taking that time out to have that meal at that time can save you an awful lot of time in your park day, just generally, so you can get lots of other things done before and after. That's definitely a top tip. So potentially you could book the restaurants for maybe 4 o'clock if they open then. Not all of them do. I think Manhattan actually only opens from 6. Anyway, so back to the cost of it. So that is 4 nights without a meal plan, physically going to the restaurants and paying on the day. So that would cost roughly €600, equating to about £506 just on a converter that I quickly used today. Again, that could be different dependent on currency rates and things. So now I'm going to share with you from the Disneyland Paris website of how much those particular restaurants would be if I booked a meal plan, because those restaurants would all be included in what's called a plus half board meal plan. So that does include your breakfast, and it does give you access to the types of restaurants that I've already discussed with you. So they're not premium restaurants, they're not standard restaurants, they're in the middle, which is what's called a plus plan. So this is based on 4 nights with a meal plan, which as I say is called a plus meal plan, including your breakfast. So for 4 evening meals, 4 breakfast for 3 adults, that actually comes to, I've got it in sterling, not in euros, because when you're booking Disneyland Paris, it gives you the option to obviously book it in sterling. So that comes to £722.16 for the 3 of us, 4 nights, 4 evening meals in those exact restaurants. I would be able to use that meal plan. I'd also be able to use that meal plan in lots of other restaurants as well. I would definitely be able to use the meal plan in lots of other restaurants as well, but I'm trying to do it as a comparison. So if I wanted to physically in those 4 restaurants, how much would it cost just turning up and paying for it myself? How much would it cost using a meal plan? As I say, we would be using the plus meal plan half board, breakfast included, and those evening meals. So as I say, that price comes to £722 just over. So the price difference is pretty much just over £200, isn't it, really, when you work that out? £220 really is what you'd be saving by going to have those 4 meals separate, paying for them, and then booking your meal plan and having it all ready, and then you just take that off your meal plan each meal that you go to. I will explain a little bit more how the actual meal plan works and what you can get for it a little bit later in the video. The biggest thing to work out from there, because the meal plan does include your breakfast in the hotel that you'd be staying in, and I'll get to that in a little while in terms of what the hotel standards are, whether it's a standard, a plus or a premium, and things such as that. So I'm going to get to all where you stay does have an effect on what you book in terms of a meal plan. As I say, this can get really confusing, guys. I hope you're staying with me, and apologies if it is confusing, because it can sound very confusing. My point is, how important is breakfast to you? That's another massive point, because as you can see from the information I've already given you, I would be saving £220 by literally just going to the restaurants and paying for them myself rather than booking a meal plan, but I wouldn't have the breakfast. But for me and for my family, we're not that bothered about having the breakfast in the hotels, and there's a massive reason for that, and I will get to that in a little while. So that's the main question you need to ask yourself. Would you pay that £200 extra to have those breakfasts in the hotel? If you would, and that's what you want to do and that's what you want to prioritise, the meal plan is probably worth it for you. Now, if breakfast is not a priority, and when you listen to what I say about the breakfast, you might agree with me, and therefore you might think, do you know what, I don't want the meal plan, I just want to book it separately. Another thing to bear in mind, which is what I explained at the beginning, is that for that particular trip, I only really want to visit those 3 restaurants, not the 4th restaurant necessarily. And if you're trying to budget and keep the costs more to a minimum, you might not want to eat out on all of the 4 days, 4 nights or whatever that you're there, or however many nights you're actually there at Disneyland Paris. You might might throw in a little bit of counter service food in there and snacks to keep you going, and you might not want to do an actual sit down restaurant. And there's loads of reasons why you would want to, lots of reasons why you won't want to, which I will go through again further into the video. So what I would definitely say is work out exactly what you want to do. So for me personally, for that trip that I'm talking about, I'd rather not do the 4 meals. I'd rather probably do the 3 meals. And therefore, if I was to do the 3 meals, I'd be knocking off another €135 off that price as well. So I'd be saving even more money by just doing it separately and having less meals rather than the 4 meals, rather than getting the meal plan. So I hope that example makes sense, and I hope it's not too confusing, and I hope I haven't waffled too much. So thank you so much if you're still with me right now. So what are the type of meal plans that you can actually get? What can you book? Where you stay can make a difference, and whether you get breakfast or you get half board or full board, that can make a massive difference as well in terms of the pricing. So the 3 different types of meal plans that you can get, I'll explain that first, is there is a breakfast only plan, there is a half board plan, which includes your breakfast and your lunch, or your breakfast and your evening meal, and you get to pick that, which one you want to have, whether it be lunch or evening meal. And then as a third option, you have full board, and that is breakfast, lunch and evening meal. So which one would I recommend if you were going for a meal plan? Which one would I recommend you get? So first of all, before I explain exactly what I would recommend in terms of meal plans, whether it be a breakfast only, half board, full board, what are the pros and cons to each of those plans, I'm going to actually explain about the actual hotels first, so that you get to really know exactly which is the lowest hotels, which are the highest hotels, in case you didn't already know, in case you've not visited Disneyland Paris. So just to really let you know, put you in the picture with that, Santa Fe is the lowest ranking hotel. We've stayed there many times, and we've got lots more trips planned for Santa Fe, and I love the hotel. So don't ever let that put you off, because the theming's amazing, and it's just a really comfortable, just a really, really good themed, lovely hotel. I love Santa Fe for definite. But the breakfast only plan in the Santa Fe is going to be obviously a lot cheaper than, say for instance, the breakfast only plan in the Disneyland Hotel, which is the highest end of the scale. So how it ranks, how it goes is Santa Fe, and then it's Cheyenne with the Sequoia Lodge Hotel. They're kind of very similar rated. And then you got the Newport Bay Hotel with the Marvel Hotel, and then you've got the Disneyland Hotel right at the top. So prices do range quite a lot. So for instance, the Santa Fe breakfast only for an adult, just looking at my laptop, I'm not trying to not look at you guys, I'm just looking at all of the costs here. So breakfast only for Santa Fe is £20.37 per adult, so that's anyone aged over 11. Whereas it goes up to breakfast only for Cheyenne and Sequoia, it goes up to £23.15, breakfast only at Newport Bay or the Marvel Hotel, £27.78, and then it goes up to the breakfast only at the Disneyland Hotel, it goes up to £41.66 per adult. So it's a massive difference between the lowest end and the highest end of the hotel. So as I say, this is the reason why you need to kind of know where you're staying, and you need to know the types of plans and restaurants and things you want to eat in really before you make your booking. So for instance, if you were having breakfast in the Santa Fe Hotel, you're not going to get the same experience as having breakfast in the Disneyland Hotel. I mean, I think that's obvious. You know, you've got obviously more like a really lower end hotel compared to a 5-star hotel at the other end. So there is going to be a difference in the pricing for definite. Would I recommend breakfast only meal plans? Definitely not. No, I definitely wouldn't. That's only my opinion. Don't quote me on it. You know, everyone else will have different opinions out there. Personally, for me, I think to make the most out of your park time, breakfast isn't a biggest thing, and it certainly isn't for us. I love breakfast, by the way, at home. I do eat breakfast. Would I recommend a breakfast only? No, for the reason that I don't think breakfast is that important in a Disney hotel when you're going to, say, get your extra magic hour and things such as that. Then no, it's not massively important. But also, if you weigh up the cost of a breakfast only plan with a half board plan, which includes your lunch or your evening meal, I then think that that step up to the half board makes the meal plan more worth it than the breakfast only. So that's the biggest reason I would say not to go for the breakfast only. So now let's get to some prices of the half board and full board and let you know what I think about the full board and what I think about the half board just overall. So just to give you some pricing, again, this is off the Disneyland Paris website, so you can check all of this out for yourself. It's just to give you a rough idea. And as I said, this is 2024 pricing. It may well go up in 2025, for instance, but the half board, as I say, is breakfast and lunch or breakfast and evening meal. If I was to get a meal plan, I'd always go for breakfast and evening meal, really. However, like I said, if you were going to book a restaurant in the middle of the afternoon, the chances are it would actually class on the app when you're booking the restaurant, it'll class as lunch. So again, it's not that you're specifically eating at lunchtime as in 12 o'clock. You might be eating at 3, 4, 5, and it still might class as lunchtime. So again, these are all things that you can consider when you're booking your restaurants. So to give you some idea of pricing, so the standard half board, which is pretty much only the Santa Fe, I think it might be David Crockett Ranch as well. That hotel is further out though, by the way. It's not walking distance to the park. So I haven't really included that as part of all, the things that I'm talking about, because even though I know a lot of people do stay at David Crockett Ranch, you do have to drive. So I'm just looking at places, just the Disney hotels that are walkable and the main ones that most people stay in who don't want to drive and want to get to the park quite quickly on a morning and get back on an evening. So, but I do think that is part of the standard package as well as the Santa Fe. So that is £50.92 for an adult and then £27.78 for a child under the age of 11. So the main restaurants that you can get as part of the standard half board package is going to be mainly just your buffet restaurants, and it's more the cheaper end of your restaurants. You've got places like Agrabah, your Santa Fe hotel restaurant, and that buffet, Billy Bob's as well in the village. There's quite a few. Again, all of this information is on the Disneyland Paris website, so I won't go into the absolute nth degree of everything because the video will just go on too long. So that's the type of thing. So if you just think, if you've got a standard half board, you're staying in Santa Fe, you're doing a standard half board package, it would only really be the cheaper buffets that would be included as part of that pricing. However, you can upgrade it, and you can upgrade to a plus meal plan but still stay at the lower hotels, but you can also go along to a restaurant, book a meal plan, book the restaurant ahead, turn up at the restaurant and say, I've only got a standard meal plan, can I pay the difference? And you can absolutely do that. So for instance, a standard restaurant, whatever the face value of that meal plan is, you would then just pay the difference. So for instance, I know full well that a lot of the plus buffets would be around the €45 mark, and I think you'd probably get in close to 40 on your standard. So it might be that you just pay an extra €5, for instance, each person each time you're having a meal to go to a restaurant that is of a higher caliber than the standard ones, if you see what I mean. Hopefully you're still with me right now. But what you've got to bear in mind with the plus restaurants that you can eat in is it's not just the buffet. So whereas the standard is just the cheaper buffets, the plus half board, so when you're going out for your evening meal or your lunch, is basically your buffet restaurants, but some of the better buffet restaurants, some of the ones that are, for instance, Pim Kitchen that I've already mentioned, Cape Cod restaurant, which is in the Newport Bay, Downtown restaurant, which is in the Marvel Hotel. So all of these are what you would anticipate being as a higher quality buffet. So they would be included as the buffets as part of the plus meal plans. But then you've also got table service that are included in the plus. So whereas the standard was just the basic buffets, when you step up to the plus, you've got all of those standard buffets. You can still eat in any of them as well, but you've got more of the higher buffets as well, and then you've got some table service restaurants. So just to give you some example, a plus menu would be somewhere like Manhattan, it would be somewhere like Waltz that I've mentioned, Bistro Chez Remy, places like that. So again, look on the website and check out which type of restaurants you're most interested in, because that is definitely going to help you decide which meal plan would suit you better if you decide decide to go for one. And for the Plus meal plan, the prices are £60.18 per adult, that's over the age of 11, and £37.04 for under 11 for children. So if you can kind of work out the difference between the standard and the Plus, it's roughly £10 more, whether it be a child or an adult. So that's what you're paying extra for each night of your stay, because bear in mind, when you book a meal plan, you have to book the meal plan for every single night of your stay. So it's not that you can book a meal plan for 2 nights of your stay but stay at Disneyland Paris as a 4-night package. That is the other reason why sometimes a meal plan just doesn't work out cost effective, because sometimes you're paying for a whole 4-night stay, but you might think, well, actually, I only want to eat out in 2 restaurants for those 2 evening meals, and therefore that's when paying them separately definitely works out cheaper than the whole meal plan. And again, if you're not too bothered about breakfast. So those are the prices and explanation about the standard and Plus. So we'll get on to the premium now. Now the premium meal plan is priced at £115.73 per adult over age of 11 and £64.81 for under the age of 11. Now for the premium meal plan, that is really going to cover the restaurants within the Disneyland hotel, the 5-star hotel. Some of them are only going to be if you're actually staying at the hotel as well. So for instance, there is one restaurant there which is a table service restaurant, and I do believe you can only eat there if you're staying in the hotel. So again, that might not be, you know, the greatest example in terms of what you can use the premium meal plan for. You can definitely use it for the other character dining experiences. So there's Plaza Gardens that has quite a few of the characters, which is in the park. That's just actually on Main Street itself. And then you've got Auberge de Cendrillon, which is the princess dining. So there are a couple of other different dining experiences with characters. And again, they're definitely more on the pricier side. So if you check their menus out, check their pricing system out on Disneyland Paris's website, you'll get to see how much you're actually paying for these type of meals, which is a lot of money, I'll be honest. So the premium meal plan, although it seems a lot of money at £115 per adult, when you start adding up those restaurants, that is quite a lot of money as well. So again, this is why it very much depends on exactly what you want to get out of your Disneyland Paris trip. Where do you want to eat? Do you want the character dining and the higher experience there? Do you want the table service, the buffet? You know, what do you want from your trip? And that will help you decide whether a meal plan's the best way forward. As I say, my top tip, which at the very start was to work out where do you want to eat, work all the pricings out of all the restaurants that you want to actually eat at, work it out all separately, and then work it out according to a meal plan. And therefore you can get to see the difference. And yes, it might be a couple of £100, it might be a lot less than that, it might be a lot more, depending on how many of you there are in your party, how many nights you stay, for instance. And that difference will then equate to whether you feel that amount of money is worth the breakfast added in with the meal plan or not. And as I say, you might then agree with us in terms of the whole breakfast thing, and you might agree with us that if you're buying them separately, you might still save that bit of money as well. So would I recommend a full board option? I'm not going to give all the prices of a full board option, just in an effort to keep this video a little bit shorter. I've given the prices for the breakfast only and the half board, but for the full board it is significantly more, obviously, because you're having the breakfast, the lunch and the evening meal. First of all, what I would definitely say is, I think unless people have done the research, they would first of all think, oh, you're getting all of those meals, that's the best one to book. It isn't. How can it be? Because it's a lot more money and you're getting a lot more food. Perfect. Are you going to actually be able to eat all of that food and get around the park, do all the shows, see the characters, do the rides? The answer is no. You're not going to get around all of that and have 3 sit-down meals in a day for definite. We have done full board ourselves. I know from experience of actually how stressful it ended up being having a full board. Now, this is back in the day when in Disneyland Paris, they used to include a full board. Get this, everyone, a full board meal plan, breakfast, lunch and evening meal, included your park tickets, included an amazing hotel, staying in places like the Newport Bay or Sequoia Lodge, you know, one of the sort of higher hotels. We've not stayed in the Marvel Hotel, we've not stayed in the Disneyland Hotel, but as I say, we've stayed in the Newport Bay and Sequoia Lodge, which are obviously more of the higher end. We also stayed in the lower end ones as well. But just to give you an example, everybody, the type of money that we're paying now at Disneyland Paris just to include your hotel, often Santa Fe, Sequoia Lodge or even Cheyenne, those type of hotels, and have no food included at all, just your hotel and your park tickets. Years ago, we got that same type of price, but to include full board as well. In fact, I think even cheaper than what we've paid more recently for some of our other trips. So that in itself was just incredible because it was included in the price. I didn't have to pay any extra for it. So of course I'm not going to turn that down when it was obviously there included as part of all of my package. But the reason why I wasn't keen on it is I felt I never stopped eating. It was literally just back to back food. There was just too much food. I couldn't sit down and enjoy a meal, a buffet or a table service restaurant, and have my breakfast first thing on the morning, sitting down eating that, and try to get everything done in the parks, as I say, from the rides, the characters, the shows. We just found that in all honesty, we did really well because we did fit an awful lot in those early trips that we did at Disneyland Paris, because we genuinely thought we probably weren't going to go back. We thought it was kind of a once in a lifetime type of trip. Look at us now, going lots of times a year. But we just love it, absolutely love Disneyland Paris. And this is what I'm trying to get at, that it depends if you sitting down having those meals is important to you, or doing a lot of the things in the park and the entertainment and the characters and the rides is important. I think you've got to weigh it up. But for us, I just felt it was just rush after rush after rush, and then eating all in between, and then literally getting on a ride and then feeling sick, and then sitting down to watch a show or something and falling asleep because you were just too full. There was too much food involved in a full board meal plan for definite. But that's just my opinion. You might love it. I'm about to actually put all the lights on because it's actually getting dark because I've probably been talking for that long. I'm really glad that you've stayed with me up until now because I've still got lots more information to talk about meal plans, lots of top tips and things that I really think that if I knew a lot of this right from the start, it would have just been so much easier for me to work things out as well. I've kind of learned the hard way of I've had to do so much research myself over the years at Disneyland Paris, and sometimes you make those mistakes where you've paid for this or you've paid for that and actually you maybe didn't need to, and that's the whole purpose of my video, guys. So sorry if I've gone on for such a long time. I'm really trying to get to the point, but sometimes a lot of these things need a lot more explaining as well. So I've got my notepad here with some more bits to talk about. So let's talk a little bit more about the breakfast. We've touched upon it before. I have already said I don't think just the breakfast only plans would work out that cost effective. I think the half board meal plans would work out a little bit better because you get in your evening meal or your lunch as well as your breakfast thrown in. But why am I set against having the breakfast in a Disney hotel? This is why. So for instance, build a picture. So all of the Disney hotels, as far as I'm aware, they're all around 7 o'clock. I think 7 o'clock is the first kind of sit-in for breakfast, as in you could queue outside the hotel restaurants before 7, but they're not going to let you in until around that time. I'm pretty sure that none of them are earlier than 7. Again, don't quote me on it because I've not had breakfast for a long time in a Disney hotel. Excuse me, but as far as I'm aware, from looking at times on each of the hotels I've been recently staying in, I think it is around 7 o'clock. So for an example, if it is 7 o'clock, you want to make sure you're higher up in that queue because there's going to be a queue, everyone. There's definitely going to be a queue. Don't doubt it. Don't think there's not going to be a queue. There's going to be a queue. Early on, maybe not quite so much of a queue, and this is what I'm saying. So I don't know, you arrive at 6:45, you're in a smaller queue or whatever. Okay, that's fair enough. And then you've got to get around the buffet, you've got to eat your food and have your hot drinks or whatever you're having, and then you're going to head to the park. So in all honesty, if you're there for breakfast really, really early, you probably are still going to make the extra magic hour. The extra magic hour, just to explain in case you didn't know, is the extra hour that you get when you stay in a Disney hotel, or if you have various different annual passes and things. But let's just talk, I won't talk about that too much. Let's just talk about when you stay in a Disney hotel. You get that extra hour that regular guests that are just booking, for a day ticket and things, that are not staying in a Disney hotel and don't have annual passes, they don't have the liberty of having that. So that extra hour is really, really good, and it's such a privilege to have it. But it is absolutely an amazing time to get so much done, or to start your day off in a really good way of maybe seeing a character. Definitely head into those rides really early, the ones that have the biggest queues. So the extra magic hour, it used to be 2, by the way. I used to go to Disneyland Paris when it was 2 hours. I wish it was now. But that extra hour just gives you so much time in terms of what you can get done in the park. So for us as a family, it's really important that we have that. Now, security, which is just before the Disney Village, and the Disney Village is just before the Disneyland Hotel, where you go through to the park entrance. So go back to security. That roughly opens, depending upon the time of year, it can be 7:45 or 8 o'clock. We've been on trips that it's been both different times. So even if it was 8 o'clock, then wherever you're coming from the hotel, if you were coming from Santa Fe or Cheyenne, you've got the longest walk. You're going to be looking at least a 20-minute walk to get to security. 15 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes for Sequoia Lodge, and maybe sort of 5 to 10 minutes from Newport Bay and Marvel. Well, to be honest, the Marvel Hotel, just a few minutes really to get from the Marvel Hotel to security. So that how the hotels go up in pricing is how close they are to security, the Disney Village, and the actual entrance into the Disneyland Park. So if security is open at 8 o'clock, you're going to need to be leaving, depending on which hotel you're in, you're definitely going to need to be leaving your hotel anywhere between 7:30 and 7:45. So if you're down for breakfast for 7 o'clock or a little bit earlier, but you're not eating anything or going to get the buffet till 7 o'clock, you've not got a lot of time. So it might mean that you take your park bags with you to the hotel breakfast, and then you literally rush off, go through security, Disney Village, straight to the park entrance, and you manage to do all of that in that quick time, which if you did, hats off to you, because I think that that would be a really good go-in to do that. And maybe one time we should have a meal plan, we should do breakfast, and I should show then how we could do it, how you can actually still get your extra magic hour and do a buffet breakfast as well. Who knows? I just don't think you're getting the value. I think that's my point. If I'm going to pay for a buffet breakfast, I don't want to just sit and have a croissant and a cup of coffee and then run out of the door. I want to be able to enjoy it and enjoy that experience. And I just personally feel you're not going to get that experience by sitting down and rushing. So I think you've got to either kind of do the whole rushing, getting there early, having a small breakfast and then heading to the park, or I think you just relaxed a little bit more about it. And then the breakfast is definitely worth it, because I think if you're a bit more relaxed about it and you can fully enjoy your breakfast, then I think then that's perfect. And who wouldn't want to start a Disney day in a Disney buffet hotel having breakfast? I do understand that that is, such a lovely thought for definite. For us though, we just tend to have things in our room. I take food with me in terms of for breakfast. We eat it in the room, we have a coffee, and then we're a bit more chilled out, trying to get to the parks, for the time it is opening. So I just don't feel that breakfast is worth it for us, and it might not be for you. But if you want to have a relaxed morning and not rush to the extra magic hour, then that might be something for you. So talking about queues at breakfast, go check out, and especially if you want to stay at Sequoia Lodge as well, it'll give you a really good example of what it's like to stay in Sequoia Lodge in a Disney hotel, and it does show you the breakfast scenario of what I'm talking about when we're leaving for the parks about 7:45. Some days we were leaving at 7:30 to get to security earlier, and some days it's about 7:45. But I actually do film a lot of the queuing area around breakfast time at that particular time. So yes, that is a little bit later, so these are people that have probably started queuing that little bit later rather than going as soon as it opens, but still, there was a lot of people queuing. So definitely go check out my complete overview and guide to Sequoia Lodge if you're interested. That video is on the channel right now, and as I say, even if you weren't really interested in Sequoia Lodge, it will just give you a little bit more understanding of the breakfast scenario, and I think I have put chapters on that video, so that would really help you go through the timings of the video. If you didn't want to watch the whole thing, you might just want to pull out the snippets of what you want to get from it in terms of breakfast. Or as I say, if you want to stay there, it'll give you obviously the room tour and the pool area and around all of the grounds, the bar in Sequoia Lodge, which you might want to visit anyway. You don't have to stay there. Any of the Disney bars, any of the Disney hotels, you don't have to stay in the hotel to dine or drink there. So Sequoia Lodge is one of our most absolutely favourite bars. I love Sequoia Lodge. I really, really do love the coziness in that bar, and the shop is really good in there. There's character meats in the hotels as well. So definitely check that video out, because it might just give you a bit more information that you didn't already know about, even if you didn't want to stay at Sequoia. So talking about the meal plans of what food it actually covers and what restaurants it covers, I have just touched upon it a little bit earlier in the video where I said if you had a standard meal plan but then you actually had a meal in a restaurant that was more classed as a plus restaurant, so your difference between your standard buffets to your more plus buffets or a table service, you can upgrade. And I don't mean necessarily you can upgrade your meal plan, yes, on the booking, but you can just stick to the standard meal plan, or indeed you can pay for a plus meal plan and then go eat in a restaurant that, so for instance the character dining restaurants and things like that, you would be able to use your plus meal plan towards the cost of the character dining, and then you just pay the difference. Likewise, you could use your standard meal plan and then go eat in somewhere like Waltz or Bistro Chez Remy or somewhere like that that's more higher, more of a plus meal place, that you would then just again pay that difference. Now I can't give you the full examples of the difference because every restaurant to every meal plan is going to be very different, but we have done that in the past and it hasn't always worked out, that much more expensive. You might be adding from a standard to a plus, you might be just adding another €5 or €10 each added on, but there's definitely going to be a significant difference from a plus over to sort of the premium character dining. That's going to be a significant cost. So these are all things you need to look into to decide which option's the best for you. You can definitely pay the difference, so that's what I'm saying. Don't always feel that you're stuck with one particular meal plan if you do get a meal plan, because you can definitely either upgrade or you can pay that difference in a particular restaurant. And sometimes you might find you're in a situation where you pay for a half board plus meal plan, which I think would be the kind of generalized meal plan that a lot of people would go for, because the plus has the most restaurants available, and then having the half board, so you've got the breakfast and the lunch or evening meal, tends to be, I think, what most people would go for, because then you've got both of those options available, with the breakfast and the lunch or the evening meal. So I think the half board plus option, in terms of how much you're paying for that, even if there was just one evening that you wanted to upgrade to something that was more expensive, at least that way you've got the other few meals, or however many days and nights you go into Disney for, you can stick within your own plus menu for all the other restaurants, and then just one evening you could then upgrade and pay that extra money of what it costs as a face value for that plus meal to that character dining or to that more expensive meal, for instance. So there's lots of different options like that. And I think I did mention actually about the buffet restaurants that included a soft drink, whereas the table services don't tend to include the soft drink with your meal plan. It's not just with the meal plan though, so if you bought it outright, you were going to one of the restaurants, for the buffet restaurants, they would include the soft drink anyway, because it's all classed under that one price. So for instance, in Pim Kitchen, €45 is what you're paying to go have the whole buffet as much as you want, including the soft drink. So you could be buying that on that particular day, or you could buy a meal plan and then it pays off that meal, obviously with your card. Actually, I didn't actually touch upon the card aspect. So with Disneyland Paris, you will get an actual card which will let you into your hotel. It will also be for the park entrance. Everything is basically on it. So it's a magic pass is what it's called. And that will have on it, if you book a meal plan, it will have sort of like a food and drink kind of sign on the actual card. It will all be included within the magic card. And therefore all you do is present that pass when you go to any of your restaurants. So once you've booked it and you turn up for your booking, they would probably say, do you have a meal plan? Do you have a pass card? You would give them that, and then they will probably just swipe it, take that off. And that's it. It just gets deducted as you go along, really. As I say, if you don't have a meal plan, you'll just be paying for it in an ordinary way of cash or card or whatever. Just a point to note, actually, we do pay still quite a lot in cash in Disneyland Paris, and I'm sure as time goes on, it'll be more card, all these other cards that you can get, credit card things, travel cards and things such as that. And I think they do accept an awful lot of cards at Disneyland Paris, but we still do the old-fashioned way of cash. We still take euros with us. So just to let you know, in case anyone was really unsure, should I take cash, what should I do? If you want to pay in cash, a lot of places do still definitely take cash in Disneyland Disneyland Paris. And I will let you know on future trips if we ever find a problem where we have to pay by card. I'll always try to let you know some way or how in any of the videos if there are certain places that start to just be card only and not, you know, not cash. But as I say, as a general rule, we've always used euros in Disneyland Paris. I'm just going to explain really quickly on some dates that meal plans are not used and some dates that might just cause a little bit of an issue with booking restaurants and meal plans just in general, and also the situation with children having meal plans. So in terms of children, you'll have already heard from the pricing that I gave in terms of, you know, the half board and things like that. I gave some prices for the children. Now children under 11, and particularly really, really young children. So if you had a child at maybe like 1, 2, 3, that is only just eating a very small amount, obviously your buffet restaurants are going to be good restaurants to go to because they're definitely going to get things like, you know, plain pasta, chips, chicken nuggets, salad, fruit, bits and pieces that a really young child would probably easily eat. And obviously you might have adventurous eaters, which is amazing. Emily's always been really good with her food actually, and quite adventurous even when she was young, so it wouldn't have bothered us having, you know, like fish and seafood and different meats and different things like that, because she would have definitely eaten them. So I would say for a really young child, if you were having a meal plan or not, the buffet restaurants will probably be some of the better places for young children. Now, when you're looking at children just under the age of 11, so they're going to eat a reasonable amount, but they're not old enough, you know, you're still going to be paying the cheaper rate of a child price. Now, some of the table service restaurants may not be their cup of tea. Definitely check out the menus. All the menus are online on Disneyland Paris's website and on the app as well. So definitely check them out, because sometimes if you get picky eaters, the buffet restaurants are going to work out better than the table service restaurants. But if your children are over the age of 11, sadly, they pay adult prices. I do think that is a little bit wrong. I do think a child of 11 is not likely to eat as much as a full-grown adult. I mean, Emily can definitely eat as much as me, if not more now, but she's 14, nearly 15, and I totally get that. I think 11 is a little bit young. I think it should definitely be sort of 12 or even 13, but it is what it is. So you're definitely going to be paying more money. You must take that into consideration when you're looking at a meal plan again. And for instance, you know, with counter service restaurants and snacks, when you've got children or quite a few children in your party, you know, you could maybe share some food in counter services. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think in some of the restaurants, I think you could probably share some things. It's going to make it a little bit harder though, and you definitely can't share buffet. You know, the buffet price is the buffet price, and that's what it is. And table services, maybe you could get away with sharing. We've never done that, so I can't really comment. But that's what I'm saying about if you have a meal plan, you're going to be stuck to only the table service, only the buffet restaurants for all of the nights of your stay. If you do have a few children with you, it might work out more cost effective to have a couple of sort of sit down meals, depending on how long you're staying in Disneyland Paris, and then do cheaper options of counter service and snacks and things like that to fill them up that way. That way you might be able to sort of share a counter service meal between 2 of them, or even 3 of them if they don't have that much to eat, and then you might be able to get other snacks through the day to fill them up. Or you might not be a massive eater and you might be able to share with one of your children. So I think when you've got a family, I think mixing that with the table service buffet restaurants and the counter service and snacks, I think is a really good idea. And that's what I'm saying in terms of if you've got a meal plan and you're restricted to eating the buffet or the table restaurants every single day, it might not be something that would just work for your family. And particularly if you've got more children, it might not be cost effective. So definitely just, you know, go online, have a look at the menus, have a look at the pricing of each of the meals that you think you might want to do, and then basically work out, you know, exactly what is going to be the most cost effective way to do it for your family, whether you need a meal plan or not. Some dates, everyone, that you definitely, it's just going to be a bit of a struggle at Disneyland Paris is definitely going to be Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. I'm not saying it's going to be a struggle to get anything to eat. You'll definitely get something to eat. But in terms of using your meal plans, I don't think you can actually use the meal plans on those specific dates. There's lots of information on the website Disneyland Paris, but I just thought I'd point it out while I was doing this video. So the 24th of December and the 31st of December, every single year, a lot of the restaurants basically double, even triple in pricing. Even just your standard buffets or your standard table services that may have exactly the same menu as the day before or the day after would go up in price on those days. And I don't believe that you can use your meal plan vouchers towards those meals either. And some restaurants do change, so they may have more of a Christmas menu. Some of the buffet things, may have more sort of Christmas themed things, which will be amazing. That would be amazing to have that at Christmas time. But it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a problem if you are there over 24th of December or the 31st of December. So definitely check out the website, get as much information from other YouTube videos and things to do with that time of year if you were going at Christmas. So let's just sum up the video really by giving you some definite pros and definite cons to meal plans. So in terms of the pros of getting a meal plan, you've definitely then booked it in advance, you've got it all planned, you feel a lot more organised. So I think having a meal plan all done already with your booking, I think definitely feels just that you've planned and organised it a lot better, and that's just in place, isn't it? So I think that is a pro for definite. Number two, that you've paid in advance as well. But I think in terms of budgeting, it depends if you're looking at the cheapest price possible or budgeting because you've already paid for that in advance and therefore it's done and you've already paid for it, rather than trying to scrimp and save money, maybe if you're trying to budget, to take the money along with you for the trip because you haven't already done it earlier on. But you could just put the money aside, couldn't you, each month or whatever before your Disneyland Paris trip. So I think you just have to look at budgeting for definite. So I do think there is a plus point there in terms of paying that in advance. And I think the main thing is just having that peace of mind that you've got that meal plan booked in, you've got it done, you're going to book all of your restaurants in before your trip, and it's all just out of the way and finished, isn't it? However, there's quite a few cons really, but I've just tried to sort of narrow it down to three, as I've given you three pros. The cons for me, and we've definitely been in that situation before where we've already paid for a meal plan and we're heading for a meal, and then you just get that feeling of, I don't really fancy that meal tonight, I don't really want to go there. Or even ahead, even a few days ahead, you've sort of already worked out your meals, you've already worked things out, you get to the parks, you're loving life there, you want to see the fireworks every night and you want to do all of the rides, you want to do all the shows, and you start thinking, I haven't really got time to do all of those meals that I've booked in. So for me, I think if you don't really feel like eating in a certain place, or you don't really feel that you've got the time to eat in a certain place, what's the point of the meal plan? Because you've already paid for it in advance. So you're kind of forced into doing it. So even if you changed your mind, and don't get me wrong, nobody should really be cancelling bookings on the Disneyland Paris website, because you'd have to go onto the app to cancel any booking that you made. But even if you did that a little bit further in advance, or just more than just on the day, I still think that's pretty fair. As in, there'll be lots of people that would want to have that booking, and that could then get that booking for definite. So definitely cancel it, guys, on the actual app. Don't just not turn up for your meal. But what I'm saying is, if you just didn't feel like it, or you're having the greatest time and you just don't really want to go for those meals, then I definitely think that becomes definitely a con to having the meal plan, because you're stuck with it, you've paid for it, so you're forced into really doing it whether you want to do it or not. I think the other thing as well, having the meal plan, it means that you need to book a meal for every lunch or every night of your stay, and therefore, like I said, in a standard sort of 4-night stay, you're going to have 4 meals booked in there for buffets or table restaurants or carry it to dine in. And it really, ultimately, you might not want to do the whole 4, you might just want to do 2 or 3, and therefore doing it separately, you're going to save money. Obviously, if you wanted to do something for every single night of your stay, it may be that a meal plan would still work out better, and I wouldn't ever say that it's going to be cost effective, as in cheaper than doing it separate, but because it includes your breakfast, that's what I mean. That's then becomes a little bit better in terms of the pricing. But for me, I feel having a meal plan, it just means you're booking too many sit-down meals, and for me it's taking time out of the park time, and I don't always want to do that. I like to have a mix. I definitely love those evenings where you start having a meal in Disney, you can just forget about everything and you're just loving life in a Disney restaurant, absolutely. But do I want to do that every evening? No, I definitely don't. Do I want to do it every lunchtime? No, I don't. And the reason being is there's so much to do, so much to see, and I just feel like I'm missing out if I'm sat in a restaurant eating food, because I also think Disneyland Paris have definitely upped their game with the snacks. I think the counter services have definitely got loads better as well. You know, there are some that are better than others, and we'll definitely be doing lots more videos on counter service and snacks, because for us, we do eat all of those types of foods as well as the sit down, you know, buffets and table service restaurants. So because we have the whole range of it, I do think we could do some really good videos on food for you guys. So again, definitely subscribe, and definitely watch out for any foodie videos that we do, because we love our food, we do love Disney, and so I'll definitely be doing lots more videos on food related things. But as I say, I feel like sometimes I'd feel that I'm wasting time, even though you're not, and I just like to have that mixture. So for me, I personally see that as a con, that it's more of booking meals for every single day of your trip, but you might see that differently. And also, I just think overall, I think the expense of a meal plan overall is more expensive. It just depends. For me personally, I think if you want to have the breakfast, you love the idea of a Disney hotel breakfast, it maybe just bridges that gap a little bit. But I think if you're not bothered about breakfast and you don't want a meal for every single night or lunchtime of your stay, of your whole Disneyland Paris package, for me, it's then definitely not worth it. And if you want to know how to save money on breakfast and everything I've talked about in terms of breakfast at Disneyland Paris, I've done a video on that as well. So definitely go check that out. That's on our channel right now. And as I say, there'll be lots more videos coming up to do with foodie related things, you know, whether it be from snacks to counter service, table service, buffet restaurants, more on the meal plans. I'm definitely going to do another video. It won't be just yet, everyone, but it'll definitely be coming up eventually, which is to do with how to book your restaurants. But just to touch upon that really quickly, you do need the Disneyland Paris app. You can book your restaurants in as soon as you book your Disneyland Paris trip. So if you're booking a Disney hotel and you're booking for in 6 months or 9 months time, you can absolutely book your restaurants in advance at that time. You don't have to wait for the 60 days, which is what's mentioned on the websites and things such as that. That's only if you don't book a Disneyland hotel, or if you're booking much later on in the day, in which case then the booking's open 60 days before. You've got to keep checking the app as well at the restaurants, because restaurants, what are available and what are not, and times that are available and not and are not. I can't even get my words out now, to be honest. I've been talking too long. What I'm trying to get at is definitely keep checking the app all the way through until your trip. That's just a brief overview to do with the restaurants. You've got to book them ahead, everyone. Don't wait until you're there, because you won't get in. You may well get into some hotel buffet restaurants. You'll probably be lucky with those type of places, but a lot of the other places you're probably not going to get in, or you won't get the time that you want. So definitely look ahead, book ahead. Anything to do with Disneyland Paris is always worth doing much further ahead. But just drop us a comment if there's something you want any help with in terms of booking a restaurant, meal plans, anything, you know, that's been listed in this video, breakfast and things. Definitely drop us a comment and I'll do my absolute best to help you. I really hope that I've covered everything in this video. I mean, I do feel like I've covered everything and more and even more, because I feel like I've waffled on so much and I literally feel like I'm getting a sore throat from talking so much. So thank you so much for all of you that have stayed so far into this video. My overall thoughts, is it worth getting a meal plan? I don't feel that it is, in my personal opinion, for my family, it isn't. But in the future, would I get a meal plan? Yes, I would consider getting a meal plan. I think Disney need to do a little bit more tweaking with the pricing structure. And I think if they did, more people would definitely get a meal plan. And I think they just need to do a little bit more centered around breakfast. Could they do breakfast earlier, for instance? They may have a mass of people coming in for breakfast, but then again, maybe not, because not a lot of people want to get up really early at Disney. I do. I'm up incredibly early. I'm packing the bags for us and getting all of us ready. And I don't mean I literally get Emily ready or I get Emily's dad ready. I don't mean it like that. I just mean we all get ourselves ready. That's what I'm trying to say. And have a little snack for breakfast in the room, and as I say, have a coffee and things in the room, have a little chat about our day, what we're going to do, you know, what our plan is, because I always kind of write that down ahead, and then on the morning we kind of discuss it, get excited about what we're going to do in the parks. Then you look out the window and then you realise it's chucking it down with rain, and your plans definitely are just messed up and you have to change your plan to maybe the following day and think, actually today I'll do this instead. I'm only joking, everyone. At the end of the day, the weather's the weather, isn't it? And that's going off on a tangent because we're not talking about the weather, are we, in Disney? But the weather definitely changes a lot of things for definite. But yeah, I think if Disney changed something about the breakfast, that you could go earlier for breakfast, for me, I would see that as a massive positive. So instead of going for 7, if I could go for my breakfast at 6, I'd love life, definitely. And I would be more inclined to book a meal plan. If they brought the prices down on it, I'd be more inclined to book a meal plan. But right now, it doesn't work for my family. It doesn't work for me. I do all of this research every single time we have a trip, just in case the prices are different for the restaurants, because sometimes the prices go up. And obviously, if you get a massive hike in a restaurant for the pricing, but the meal plan stays the same, there you could actually then be onto a winner, because the meal plan might then work out better, which really goes back to the very beginning of the video, everybody, where I said my top tip, which still stands now. My top tip is work out where do you want to eat for a restaurant, you know, whether it be lunch or evening meal, it doesn't really matter. Work out the prices, work out how many places you're going to eat at, work out the overall cost, then work out your meal plan, how much is that going to cost for yourself and your family. That will include your breakfast if you're going for the half board option. As I say, I won't bother with the full board option. It's just my opinion, but I just personally think there's just too much to eat and too much sitting about in a restaurant when there could be so many other things that you could be doing. But it's personal choice, isn't it? And a lot of people might like that. But if you're just going for the standard kind of half board plus option, which I think a lot of people would pick, definitely just work out all the pricing of the meal plan, the pricing of your restaurants, work out the difference between the two. Is it not that much, and therefore does it work out better for you to get the breakfast and do the meal plan? Or is that gap quite big, which usually for us, that gap feels quite big. It's usually easily a couple of £100, even more. And then I just think, well, if I can get a few snacks, I mean, I buy nice things from like Marks and Spencer and places like that, and I take, you know, nice foods for breakfast. We don't kind of scrimp and save, but we just have something much smaller, much lighter, much quicker, which I think is the essence of Disneyland Paris, guys. It's anything to make life quicker and easier, to get all those fantastic magical things done in the park. And definitely don't miss our next trip. It's going to be really exciting, everyone. Lots of videos coming your way, lots of shopping, lots of food, hotels, just in the Disneyland park, in the Studios park, the shows, just everything. Everything that we can cover, we're definitely going to cover for you. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'm sorry it's a long one. I'm going to try and edit this so that it's not as long as what I think in my head, because I really feel like it's gone on too long. I do apologise if it is, but I've got a lot to say on the meal plans. So make your decision of what you want to do, but definitely stick by my top tip at the beginning of working all those costs out before you make a decision. Then you can make an informed decision of exactly what you want to do, rather than feeling, oh, I must just do a meal plan because that's the way to do it. It isn't always. So definitely go by my top tip. I really hope you enjoyed. Sorry it's been so long. Everyone take care, and we will see you in Disneyland Paris for the next video, everyone. So see you in Disneyland Paris. Make sure you subscribe, like this video, drop us a comment, and we'll see you in the parks, everyone. Bye.